That was Amy Kasim, and we can't get enough of her. We're going to learn more about her journey later on. But today, for our personality profile, we have a very special man with us. He goes by the name of Koku Anyidoho. He's the former Deputy General Secretary for the National Democratic Congress. And today we're going to learn about his life. What was life like as a child? Did he always see himself in public service? What drives him? What has his journey been so far? And what's up for the next chapter? Good morning.
Good morning, Dziffa.
How are you?
By God's grace, and you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Now, throughout the conversation, if you have any questions for him, let us know with the hashtag BreakfastDaily and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832. Koku,
Yes.
What was life like as a child? Where did you grow up? What kind of troubles did you get yourself into?
Well, let me say it's a pleasure to be on your set for the first time. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
As a media house. You stuck your feet in, and looks like you're really deep in.
Thank you.
Koku Anyidoho, what did I do as a kid? Well, of course, I was born in Burma camp. My father, a military officer. My late mother, a nursing sister. So I was born in the barracks. 37 military hospital, to be precise.
Wow.
So I grew up in Burma camp, Kotoka Primary School.
Mm-hmm.
Very good primary school.
What did you like about school?
Oh, those days, what did I like?
Mm-hmm.
It was fun to play in the sand. It was fun to play in the sand, roll around and kick all kinds of balls around, oranges, and you get your shoe messed up and you go home and you are sure that you get a few lashes. So it was fun growing up in Burma camp. At that time, I was one out of 5 siblings or 6 siblings, I think, yeah. And so, primary school, and I remember May 15th, June 4th, 79, 31st December, 81. I lived it. It's not stories that were told to me. I remember.
What do you remember?
Oh, yeah, yes. How we had to run from school home because we used to live in Labadi Villas and Kotoka Primary School was close to Nicholson Park. And then, so all the fighter jets moving, all the, MOACs moving around, and so disruption here and there, looking for siblings and neighbors having to run.
As a child, how did that make you feel?
Well, you're not too sure what was really happening, except that school has been shut and headmistress, everybody should go home. Parents who were close by came rushing in, picking their children to go home, and those of us whose parents were not around, we had to now find our way home. Yeah, so you get home and then subsequently you listen to radio. It was only GBC those days, and then you hear the broadcast and there's a voice and heavy experiences. And then when your dad is gone for some days and he's not coming back because officers of a certain rank and above had to report, it was heavy. Then we had to move. I had an uncle who was then in Kolebu at the time. I think I just finished his housemanship, so young medical officer. Some of us were there. There was another uncle with the foreign service, and he was then living somewhere in Kaneshi. And then some of us were there. And, experiences that nation went through. And I think that if you talk about how I got into public service, maybe this could have been the
trajectory.
Exactly. Seeing those things happen and wanting to serve my nation in a certain way, such that we don't go back to those days. Maybe that has been the driving force. And so it was fun, growing up that way. And I remember there was a time so my father had to go on a training course in the U.S. With the United States Marine Corps, and so Quantico, Virginia. It afforded us the opportunity as family to go and live in the United States for a while, so we schooled there, and got into the Marine thing. I still can sing the Marine song, the U.S. Marine song.
What is it?
From the halls of Mount Izoma to the shores of Tripoli. from the halls of Mount Izoma to the shores of Tripoli, where we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marines. When the Army and the Navy ever look on heaven's open doors, they will find their gates are crowded by United States Marines. So it was fun growing up in Burma
Why did you
camp.
decide to join the Marines?
No, my father had to go there for training.
Okay.
The military took him there, the Ghana Armed Forces took him there. And it's an institution I respect so much. And I learned a lot.
But why the Marines?
Well, that one's up to the Army to decide. It was the Ghana Armed Forces program. No, my father didn't decide. It was the Ghana Armed Forces that decided that. They used to train a lot of officers there with the USMC. I'm not too sure if that program still exists, but many other families also had the opportunity, and that's the Ghana Armed Forces for you. They give them the best of training, and it's an institution that no matter what happens, I think we must always protect. It's done us proud. I mean, years later when my father had to be in Rwanda as the Deputy Force Commander for UNAMIR, United Nations Assistance Mission in Rwanda, in the middle of the genocide. The Ghana Armed Forces stood tall under Jerry Rawlings, Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings as Commander-in-Chief. So it's an institution I'm proud to have associated with. And so that's the primary school bit, and then secondary school. I went to Form 1 in Mawali School. Then I think after 2 years, I left and came to Achimota School. So I did my O-level in Achimota School, and then did my A-level in Laboni. Then 1989, National Service. So I went to Brongahafo. That's where I was posted to. When the postings came, I tried, as it were, the Ghanaian thing, to use connection to...
To what?
To change the posting. I mean, why? And my dad will have none of it. Oh, man. If other people's children are going, you will go.
Why didn't you want to go?
I had never traveled that really. I don't think, okay, yes, I'd been to Sunyani before by air. We went to spend holidays with close family friends, the Ayumas. They were then in Sunyani 3BN. Yeah, so we went to spend holiday there. That was my only experience in Sunyani. Now, happy to go there and go and do national service. Because I was not only going to be in Sunyani. In fact, originally I was going to go to Nkoranza. But when we got there, I think then they brought me to Chira. And oh boy, it was an experience. But I think that was also a defining moment.
What made it so?
Being on your own out there, no father, no mother. And I was teaching at the Chira Secondary School, English literature and government. And I was head of department for those two departments. But guess what? It was a one-man department. So I was head of myself.
But no one knows that on your resume.
And I had to teach government and literature because those were two of my A-level subjects. For A-level, I did government literature and religious studies. And then for the records, I had an A in government anyway.
What did that experience teach you about yourself?
That you're growing up. And as the Bible says, when you're a baby, you drink milk or you crawl. When you're growing up, you have to walk and then you have to run. So I think at that point, I realized that I must have been 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah, because I entered the university, I think, when I was 19. And so that experience, then coming straight, entering the university, I think that it helped. Realizing that there's life beyond Accra, there's life beyond Burma camp, and that if ever I had the opportunity to serve, I should do it with a lot of fellow feeling. Because those days, there was not an iota of asphalt anywhere in the Brongahafo region.
Wow.
Not an iota in 1989. I think Impregilo or Sadelmi had just been given the contract to start something. So the whole of Sunyani was just dust. Just dust. It was just dust. Red dust. And just commuting from Sunyani to Tra, you had these mummy tracks. And by the time you got there, the color of your hair would change. I mean, everything, just. And so if today Sunyani has asphalt and there's a road, proper road in Tra, honestly, we've come a long way. And I think that there's still a lot more to do. And for me in public service, the ability to put smiles on the face of people, especially in the hinterlands, is what I intend to do. So then that was Legon. Yes, student politics. We did our bit.
Why student politics?
Oh man, we had to. We had to do.
What intrigued you about it?
Oh yeah, I mean that place, Legon, is a world on its own. It's a university, and I'm proud to be a product of the university. And I was in Legon Hall, and we did things.
What kind of things? What kind of troubles did you get yourself
into?
We
did things. Not bad things.
There's nothing wrong with bad things.
But I remember there was one Aluta that we led. It had to do with student loans. And the government wanted to introduce student loans, and we were not going to, because, hey, the dining hall was the cafeteria. You go and get your chit. You go and have your meal, and then we're from this student loan concept. And so we rebelled, and we were burning tires on the main Legon road. Must have been 2-3 days continuous, no lectures.
Wow.
We'll burn tires, and then we'll end up in the JCR, have a good beer, and then go burn tires.
Did your dad find out?
Well, I don't know. But I think after a while, the government got fed up. And whoosh, they opened fire. Oh, yeah. They allowed the police to come in. And it was, some of us got whipped.
Wow.
I got whipped.
How old were you guys?
As I'm saying, 1920, hot-blooded. And there was a lady at IPS. In fact, it was a widespread thing. IPS joined, UST joined. In those days, we used to call them UST, Tech.
Yeah.
Then came Quivers. And then an unfortunate incident. One lady, IPS, because they entered these campuses with ammunition. They were shooting, And then the bullet hit the lady. She was at IPS. I forgot her name. And that was also a defining moment in our politics. And this must have been 91, entry 92, thereabout. And it was an experience. So we did fight for the restoration of democracy also. So we were part of the struggle to bring the fourth Republican dispensation. And
How important was it for us to be a democratic?
Well, we thought that, yes. As students, we needed to fight. And then, because we thought that we had enough of the revolution, and then so it was time to restore democracy. And I remember myself and a late friend of mine, Johnny Orakatete, God rest his soul. We used to have some night clandestine activities, pasting posters all over the campus, virtually graffitiing and stuff like that, calling for restoration of democracy. And we thought we were not being noticed. So I remember the SRC, the Legon Hall president or the SRC president, one night called myself and Johnny and said, look, they know what we have been doing, we should be careful. We used to have our meetings at E9. E9 is on top of the bookshop at Legon, those who know E9. And we used to hold meetings. The Movement for Freedom and Justice used to come there. And I'm not sure Chrissy Pratt to remember, but 1 or 2 meetings they came. And we young guys were there, just part of them. So we've been part of this first struggle for restoration of democracy. And I remember casting my vote in 1992 in front of Legon Hall. The joy of, voting. It was exhilarating. And so that's it. We've been at it, yeah.
Most 19-year-olds at the time would have probably just been like, I'm a 19-year-old Koku, let me just get my straight A's and get a job. not get involved with all this stuff, let somebody else handle it. Where do you get your fearlessness from?
Fearlessness, maybe it's in the DNA. It's in the DNA. I try, I don't claim piety, and I will never claim piety. I don't claim righteousness. But I think I try to operate with a fair amount of conscience. And it's the conscience that drives me. I won't do it, and I won't do it. If I want to do it, I will do it and do it very, very well. That's it. And so, of course, upbringing. Also, certain things were not allowed at home and stuff like that. And as students, we also thought that we should fight for certain rights. Like I'm saying, this loan thing that it was a new concept. If others had free education and free lunch and free breakfast and free dinner and free tea, and why should we be denied that one and then being asked to take loans and then having to look for guarantors? And then now it was a concept that was new. It didn't sound real, but that's so. As a public figure now, and having worked at the presidency graciously and humbly so, when students agitate, I know what. So it's up to government, it's up to public policy managers, it's up to let them really understand what you are doing. Because if you are just introducing it for the sake of introduction, and they don't have a real understanding, because it may come to benefit them, but if you don't get the buy-in, there's that agitation. Because eventually, when I got my first student loan, it must have been 13 CDs in those days. 13 CDs. Mm-hmm. I took a trotro, came to Malcolm or something, one of them, or Lava, one of those ones in Accra. I was able to buy a standing fan, a ghetto blaster. Of course, the beer had its portion also, but but I was able to buy a ghetto blaster and a standing fan. And for the 3 years I was in Lagos, anytime I looked at these things, so those were the first properties I acquired with the standing. Wow. Then people started now using the student loan to take care of their siblings at home. People will remit. Then suddenly realize that, well, it's not bad after all, is it?
But that's not the purpose of the student
loan.
Buy.
Well, it's for sustenance.
Yes.
Is that not it?
Yes.
So if I have a cocoa farm somewhere in Chira, and that is what brought me to Legon.
But you're supposed to use it for your books.
Well, there are no rules. There are no rules. It's your loan. You will repay one day. When you get it, you use it. Of course, for photocopies, for textbooks and stuff like that. But people didn't use it for all kinds of things. I know people who began certain businesses on campus with student loan. Wow. And today the businesses have grown into, oh yes. And that is about the mindset. Dziffa, this brain that God has given us. That is why some of us are on this mindset transformation thing. I think we'll come to that. But it's such a potent weapon, eh? The atomic bomb was created by the human brain. Everything, the computer. So there's no terabyte or gigabyte that is more powerful than this one. This one has endless terabytes. Because this is what produced the computer. This is what produced the atomic bomb. So you can use it to create weapons of mass destruction. Or you can use it to create wealth for nations. And that is where we need to get to. Apply the brains to create wealth for nations. And so it's been a journey. And so after Legon, national service at the GBC, it was still the only state broadcaster in town and in the country. So I did my national service there. And that's how I got into this whole media thing, because...
So we'll talk about your time in media and then your time with the former president, Mills.
So after Legon, so after the service...
Well, we have to go for a quick...
Okay, sure, why not? I'm running here.
No, you're perfect. We're talking to Koku Anyidoho, who is the former Deputy Secretary General of the National Democratic Congress. If you have any questions for him, use the hashtag BreakfastDaily and the WhatsApp line 0550 585 832. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for being with us. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, use the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832. We are talking to Koku Anyidoho, who is the former Deputy Secretary General of the NDC. We've learned a lot about his life, and now we're going to transition into his public life. What intrigued him about the public sector? Why did he want to serve the country? Has he had any regrets and lessons? But before we get into your public life, you've mentioned your father a lot. What was your relationship like with him?
Oh, well, father-son relationship. I mean, he gave us the best he could give us as a father. And especially when our mother passed on. So, you know, he did what he should do as a father. And I think that we are all proud of him, where he was able to get to from the rank of a private soldier and made it to the rank of a major general in the Ghana Armed Forces, written his own books and his experience in Rwanda, guns over Kigali, been awarded a state medal for bravery and valor because of what he did in Rwanda. We are proud of him. And yes, of course, but you, like every father-son relationship, you every now and then, you know.
But as a kid, were you ever jealous? Like, I wish you would just be my dad and not be all the other things and be there.
Oh, when the king hits your buttons, you... when the lashes come, you look sharp. Oh, you look sharp. I mean, certain things were just not tolerated. And you look back over the years and benefit of hindsight, it was good. Good training. Of course, maybe sometimes you didn't understand why the things were being done. But then again, as a father now, of course, times have changed. And you do as you also want to give your children the best. And I believe that genuinely, every intention was backed by a good, something good. I want my children to grow up, you know, and become somebody. And I'm sure that we are proud of him as children. And we are doing our best to keep the family name alive and wake up for our children also to wake up one day and be proud of us that our fathers did well.
But do our kids always understand our intention, especially of
and
our
I think
fathers?
I think as society evolves and as we learn and we move on, I think there's more transparency now in parenting than maybe before. You understand that you want to give the rationale behind every decision that you are taking, so that there's a consensus and building of minds. And so yes, I still use the carrot and stick approach, you know, and I'm sure most parents do use the carrot and stick approach. So that's it, because the Bible even says it: you spare the rod and you spoil the child. So I don't believe in pampering. I don't pamper. I'll give you what you have to get, but you pamper and you spoil them.
But a little bit of pampering isn't bad.
Yeah, the pampering, yes, in a certain way. But when you use the pamper in the pampering sense of the word, then your son does no wrong and your daughter does no wrong. And so if they report them, it's like everybody, no, please, let them understand that there are things you do and things you don't do. You're not allowed to scratch my car. My car is not your plaything. So that's why you have toys.
But do you ever say, I love you, I'd
Oh,
hugs
yes. In
and
fact,
all the
why
kisses
not?
and
No,
everything
why
else?
not?
Okay.
I actually apologize to them if I offend them.
Okay.
No, because those are you need to fix those traits in them. So if I do something and I offend you, I'm sorry. It doesn't hurt. Because if daddy can tell you he's sorry, then you too, if you offend daddy or mommy, you must be able to tell daddy or mommy that you are sorry. It's simple. I say thank you. When you do, I thank you. Please, can you please do this for me? Can you please bring me water from the fridge?
Was that something you developed, or
yeah.
you had to consciously get yourself there, or it came natural
I grew up with it. And I think I'm well-mannered. And I know I'm well-mannered. I'm well-cultured, in spite of what people will say.
Why did you add that?
I had to, in spite of what people say, I'm well-cultured and well-mannered. Otherwise, I would not have served the President of the Republic of Ghana and served him with distinction. Yeah.
What was that experience like for you?
Oh!
How did you guys meet?
So let me just say that after Legon, so then I went to the UK to do a master's at the University of East Anglia. And You know, because I used to own a newspaper and I used to write some sports column and do all kinds of things. People think I'm a journalist. No, I'm not a journalist. I didn't go to GIJ. Of course, subsequently, I went to Legon for the Masters in Communications Studies program. But writing comes naturally to the family. God-given, and we thank him. So a family of poets, a family of writers, a family of... Yeah, so writing comes naturally to me. It's one of my fortes. In fact, I used to write all President Mills's speeches.
Wow.
Yeah, I wrote all his speeches. Name the speech. State of the Nation address. UN address. ECOWAS addresses. Speeches.
How did
AU
you
speeches.
feel writing those speeches?
Speeches. And I wrote every speech. If it's a religious one, I'll write it. If it's a political one, I'll write it. If it's an international one, I'll write it. And I remember one party bigwig one day asking, Koku, how do you manage this? Because in most presidencies, you would have specialists for different fields. So there are people who write the sports speech. There are people who write the church speech. Those who do the international one. Those who do the international one, the local one. But here was one person that wrote all speeches. And if President Mills held on to me, that was one. If I was my writing skill, that caught his attention. That Koku, you write so well. And I remember Professor Wono one day also, that was a good man, also a statesman, Professor Kofi Awodo, that he doesn't care a hoot about football or sports. But the way I used to write my sports pieces got him interested in sports because the prose, the language, the poetry of it, it was just magnificent. And
what's your process of writing?
My process of writing is, it comes when it just comes by inspiration. Of course, with speech writing also, you have to do a lot of reading. You have to be, it won't just come like that. You have to read. And so I read a lot. Because I know the doctors will tell you, or the psychologists will tell you that the more you engage the brain, the more neurons that the brain produces. And the neurons are like the foot soldiers in the brain department. The more foot soldiers you have up there, or the more people you have there working on the brain, the more powerful you are. And that's one thing people don't know. I just don't wake up and go on radio and no, I read. Of course, I read the Bible, which is the manual of life and for living. And people don't know that the Bible is a manual on its own. It's not just for church. It's a manual for living. It teaches you lots of things. For example, when Jesus Christ was teaching, talking about the parable of the talents, he was teaching about investments, banking, finance. Then, so he says the man was going and called his servants and gave this one 10,000 talents, 5,000 talents, and 2,000 and 1,000. Everybody invested. The 1,000 didn't. He dug a hole and put it there. And Jesus was saying that so if you couldn't do anything with the money or the talent, couldn't you at least bank it? So way back, Jesus Christ was teaching about banking, finance, investments. How? So that is the Bible. So if you read it and you read it deeply, you understand that it's the manual for life. God created us and he says we should have dominion over everything. He has given us wealth. There's wealth in every plant that you see. There's wealth in everything that you see. It is out of the wealth that he expects us to generate riches. Out of riches, you get money. Human beings, what are we doing? We are chasing money, worshiping money, and we've left the wealth that God has given us. And so we are now chasing money, forgetting the wealth. So you have people who have gone to school, studied Greek science, and they are joining the Unemployed Graduates Association, Greek scientists, because they won't go back and till the land. Yeah, they won't research deeper. Go and read about George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver, an American from a slavery background, an agronomist, just by applying the brain out of the one potato plant, So now you have potato chips, potato this, potato that. So we have the things here. What are we doing? So you are prepared to join the Unemployed Graduate Association because you're not reading, you're not researching.
Have we created a platform for that? Because it's one thing to have
Well, you introduced me as a Deputy General Secretary. That is former. So former head of communication at the presidency, former presidential aide.
What was your experience like as the
Currently, now, I am the founder and the chief executive of the Atamils Institute. The founder, that is, I want to be known in my current status.
Okay.
So we've gone from history, current. And this is a policy think tank, a research, education, and advocacy think tank, which is now championing the mindset transformation agenda.
What inspired you to start it?
What inspired me to start it, like I told you, growing up and the experiences. But then the man I worked for as president, as my political mentor and leader and everything, those are the things that drove his public life and public service. Service to mankind, service to the community, service to the nation. He was a teacher. So all he did was to acquire knowledge and then impart knowledge, either as a lecturer, either as a football administrator, either as a statesman, either as a religious man, whatever. And it's been 7 years. July 24th will be 7 years since God called him to eternal rest. I think enough of the crying, enough of the mourning. So we set up this institute as a policy think tank. We are going to espouse his ideals. And we are going to teach. We're going to advocate. We're going to try and change the narrative. Shape policy. So building Ghana through mindset transformation, Dziffa. Building Ghana through, because for example, why? We sit down and pour rubbish into the gutter. We are defecating in the open. There's a WHO 2015 report that ranked Ghana second behind war-torn Sudan, the whole of Africa, when it comes to open defecation. Open defecation just means shitting in public. Kwame Nkrumah's Ghana should be ranking second when it comes to shitting in public. So we
all understand what open defecation is. But we know what open defecation is.
So open defecation.
Yeah.
Why should it be so? And we are proud of it. The Black Star of Africa, Ghana's independence is meaningless unless it is linked with the total liberation of the African continent. So now our independence is meaningful because it's linked with the open defecation of the African continent. Is that what we are talking about? So we say mindset transformation. In the past, we used to have what? Town council people, which was corrupted, and tankers. What stops us from going back to it? And we sit. We have eyes. And with our eyes, we litter, we clog the waterways, we build on the waterways. So the rain, which does not have eyes, what should it do? So the rain will come. It doesn't have eyes. So it will enter your house.
But you are,
it will enter your
you've been in,
it will destroy your property.
Position of leadership.
Yes.
Right. So you can afford the luxury of critiquing the things that are going on.
Yeah.
What did you do in your roles to ensure that these things were fixed, or at least
Dziffa,
the friends that you have and the people in your party could change this?
That's why I'm saying that, first of all, in 2008, the major theme of the campaign that we ran under President Mons was building a better Ghana. Mm-hmm. Building a strong, resilient economy, job creation, changing the face of governance. That's what he wanted to do so that was the whole mindset transformation process. Mm-hmm. That we can't continue with the vicious cycle of our politics. Dziffa, I'm hearing today that Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire are collaborating for the first time to determine the price of cocoa beans on the world market. Is that not it?
Yeah.
Kwame Nkrumah built silos in the 60s to store our cocoa beans for the same purpose, so we can control and determine the world price of cocoa. What happened? After the 66 coup d'etat, the silos were left to rot and destroy. So we have gone through this cycle of, if you start it and I come, I won't continue, because if I continue, you will take the credit. So I don't want you to take the credit, so I'll destroy it. I'll come and start. I won't have the opportunity to finish. Then you will come back. You will come and stop my own. Dziffa, here we are 62 years, and now we are ranking second in open defecation. It's shameful. So we say we are going to do the mindset transformation. So assuming I was asleep yesterday, let's just say today I'm awake. So we are moving forward. We're not moving backwards. And we look, civic education. When Kwame Nkrumah set up the NCC for civic education, it was for good reason. Today, where's the National Commission for Civic Education? The National Commission for Civic Education headquarters is sitting in a cubicle at the offices of the Electoral Commission. Meanwhile, it is the NCC that gave birth to the EC. Technically so, because when they had to do all their work before we agreed to enter the democratic dispensation. Governments are ready to fund the EC. Anything they want, let's give them the money. Nobody wants to fund the NCC. Why? Because then we have moved the mindset of the country and it's fixated on voting. So as for voting, everybody, so that's what we are doing for our democracy. So it's about voting. What about the continuous civic education that will empower the minds of the people? Give them that brain power for them to live a better life. What's happening to that? So we won't empower the NCC, because if we empower them and they do the continuous civic education, the populace will be enlightened. If the populace become enlightened, maybe politicians, our influence will dwindle.
Do you think you did enough under Tamil's administration for the NCC?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Governance is governance is a continuum. Governance is a continuum. Working with President Mills, I know what we did, I'm sure. So then again, it's not about President Mills. It's about tomorrow's Ghana that we want to build from today. So we are saying that as an institute, we're going to drive policy. We're going to make sure that governments resource the NCCE appropriately for continuous civic education. Because once we do the civic education, the next level is civic responsibility. Once we get to civic responsibility, then we have hit that threshold, which is setting the proper preconditions for takeoff into development. So that you will not sit down every time and be crying for government. What is government? Government is you and I. You have just put your power in somebody else's hands. So we are saying that with the mindset transformation. Why? So stop littering your yard. And something happened recently somewhere in Agogo, where a government appointee took rice and some food stuff to some people. And I read in the news that the people chased the government appointee away. And I said, oh God, thank you for mindset transformation revolution. Say, go away with your rice, we don't want it, we have had enough. Give us a public latrine rather. So that when we finish eating, we can go and defecate in dignity. We've had enough of you people, appointees and politicians, just throwing pittances at us. Give us something better. We want to live a more dignified life. And I said, praise the Lord.
Do you think you've done enough in your role to change the mindset of the people around you, even in your own political party?
Well, that's what I'm saying, that it's a process. It's a process we began. You understand? We are now championing it. It's not going to be an easy drive, but hey, let's begin it. And I must say that it's catching on. This is the building a better Ghana through mindset transformation. I just came back from a global leadership conference in Geneva, at the Geneva Institute for Leadership and Public Policy. Amazing stuff that is going on worldwide vis-a-vis this mindset transformation thing. And look, yesterday I was talking to a young friend of mine, an agricultural
entrepreneur.
No, he's not yet an entrepreneur.
Okay.
In terms of building his mindset.
Okay.
And I showed him just a plant. And I said, look, you are a Greek scientist. This plant, if you just extract whatever juice or whatever you call it from this one plant, the derivatives, do you know the number of things that you can do out of it? He was just looking at me. He said, boss, what's happening to you? I said, yes. We are all now going to apply our brains. God has given us everything. He says, eat of these fruits, the herbs. Out of it also, you use it for medicine. And so what are we doing? We are destroying our forests, destroying the waterways, and we are crying. Africa, Ghana, when anybody says scarce resources, there's nothing like scarce resources.
Okay, there's a viewer here who wants to know what you're doing to bring NDC back to power before we go into Africa and Ghana.
Dziffa, we set some ground rules for this interview because this whole thing about NDC MPP, that's what is. So even an armed robber goes to rob, they say it's an MPP armed robber. Rapist goes to rape, they say it's an NDC rapist. Pow. We are discussing mindset transformation. I'm serious. So please, this one day, I beg.
You won't answer that question.
I'm not going there.
Okay,
No.
okay. Now, what are you most proud of in your years in public service? What are some of the things you can say, I'm proud I was able to do this?
Well, from humble beginnings, 28 million Ghanaians, there's one proud moment. I wrote a speech for President Mills, and he delivered at the AU summit in Addis Ababa. It was after that speech that the AU adopted Kwame Nkrumah's birthday,
Wow.
21st September, as a special day on the AU calendar. And I'm so proud of myself that I did the speech and inserted certain things in it. And the president delivered to a standing ovation. And the AU adopted Kwame Nkrumah's birthday as a special day on the AU's calendar. And when he finished, and we got to the hotel room, and he called me. We got to the hotel, and he called me into his room. And anytime I did anything for him, he would say, Koku, thank you. Koku, please. Even when he thought he had offended me, Koku, please forgive me. Such a humble man. And so when he called me into his room that day and looked at me openly, he said, Koku, thank you very much. I love you like a son. God bless you. For me, President of the Republic of Ghana, young boy from Kotoka Primary School. Where did I ever know I would get close to a president of any republic? But hey, that's God and the way he does his things. That's destiny. And so I don't joke with my God. I pray. Even before, once OJ called me and said, I'm going to have this interview. Once I agreed, I just started praying. I said, God, give me a good tongue. Put words in my mouth. Give me a discerning spirit. Open the eyes of my understanding. So I don't joke with my schedules. And so that, of course, President Mills had lost the 2000 elections, lost 2004 elections. And so for him to have personal, let me just put this on record. President Mills called me personally, to work for him. This was in 2006. Koku, I want you to work for me. It was one morning. I used to be in the bank, then Metropolitan and Allied Bank. I was there for about almost 10 years. I ended up as the head of Treasury and Investments by the time I was leaving. Of course, prior to that, I had worked with the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, the Ghana office. And I was a social services officer. That when I came back from the UK after the master's program. And actually, I was responsible for birthing the first batch of Sierra Leonean refugees who came into Ghana. They came aboard a Ghanaian fishing vessel. And so the UNHCR, Ghana Immigration Service, the Ghana Refugee Board, we had Ministry of Interior, we had to collaborate to birth them in and begin to process them officially as refugees. I was also part of the group that began the first batch of voluntary repatriation. Under the UN Convention, all repatriation is voluntary. Yeah. You don't force refugees out of your country. So the first batch of Liberian refugees We had to process them for voluntary repatriation. We went, they had to go by road through Elubo, Cote d'Ivoire, and then enter Liberia through Cote d'Ivoire. Working with refugees, my sister, when that fishing vessel came that day at the Tema Harbor, I'll never forget. It was full of government, mainly government officials. So what? They had an opportunity to enter a fishing vessel. And so they left Sierra Leone and they came to Ghana. Some had valid visas, so they didn't even have to stay as refugees. They just booked flights and they left. Politicians. What happened to the young boys who stayed there and had their limbs cut off because they didn't have visas? So they died in the Civil War. The politicians left. My drive in politics has always been to serve.
What do you think of President Mills's final resting place?
Dasungwe Park.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. But I'm happy that Ghanaians are talking about it. Maybe if I spoke about it, somebody will say I'm playing politics with it. So 7 years after he's passed on, Ghanaians are talking about Asumdue Park. They are talking about the library complex in Cape Coast. I say I will not talk about it because I will say it and somebody will say I'm playing politics.
But I'm asking you to talk about it because we're not doing politics today.
It's unfortunate. President Mills didn't bury himself at Asumdue Park. He didn't write a will that should he die, he should be buried there. The state, the Republic of Ghana, decided that he should be buried there. It's sad, you know. It's sad. I just hope that something's done about it. Because if presidents come and they say they want to visit the burial place of President Mills, is that what we're going to show them? Is that what we're going to show them? And it's not like we had a proper design. President Mills passed on 24th July. We had to bury him on the 10th of August. We had like 2 weeks and 3 days to prepare. So even though there was a master plan to build it into a real mausoleum, because the person who designed it is the same person who designed the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum, a Ghanaian, Dr. Don Atta, and his peace group, Kwame Manfi and Co. So we just did it for the purpose of August 10th. So the master plan was that once we bury it after August 10th, we'll complete all the other works. Why it is still like that after 7 years, I don't know. I just pray that. I've heard that some family members are threatening that if it continues to remain that way, they will come and exhume the remains and take to a family cemetery somewhere in Ikumfi. I don't know. That will be the decision of the family. But Dziffa, all I can say, it hurts. It's sad. And one thing President Mills used to say very often was that a nation that does not honor its heroes is not worth dying for. Was he being prophetic? He died in office. He didn't disgrace himself. He didn't dishonor his oath of office. He didn't do anything untoward as a president of the Republic of Ghana. And that is his final resting place. And we are proud as a people. We are proud as a nation. I don't know, but may his soul continue to rest in peace. He was a good man.
Thank you very much, Koku Anyidoho. We have run out of time.
Well, Dziffa, thank you very much too.
It's been a pleasure having you.
It's been a pleasure too. I enjoyed it I like the scenery.
Who is the,
Yeah.
so I should introduce you as the
The founder and chief executive of the Atamils Institute.
founder and chief executive of the Atamils Institute. Where can we follow you on social media at the Atamils Institute?
Pardon me?
Where can we follow the Atamils
Yes, you can
Institute?
follow. I think there's a Facebook account. I think we're on Twitter as well.
Okay,
The website is coming up.
okay.
And the official launch also is coming up.
And
so
we'll be following.
Sure. We want to build a better Ghana. Ghana is all we
Change the
have.
mindset.
Change the mindset. You know.
He's also the former Deputy Secretary General of the NDC.
Actually, I'm also currently a vice president of the Council of African Political Parties.
Nice. I hope you've learned a lot from his experience and you've taken some notes down. I've certainly learned a lot. Don't go anywhere. Breakfast Daily will be right back.